Hey everyone, I'm Keaton.
And I'm Peter.
And today we're going to talk about milk.
Oh, let's go, dude!
What we really want to talk about today is how to get that consistent milk, how to get good consistent temperatures, good consistent quality. And we also want to talk about why that's happening. I don't know about you, Peter, but that's really helpful for me. If I know like why something is happening the way it's happening or why we should do things, it helps me to kind of like keep that in mind when we're actually doing the thing.
Yeah, totally.
So if we want to understand what's happening with milk when we steam it and why it happens, it might be important to just define milk, talk about what it is. Milk is mostly water. It's actually 87% water. And of that remaining 13%, it's made up of sugars, so lactose, milk sugar, proteins, fats, and then a very small percentage of minerals, salts, magnesium, things like that. And what we're really concerned about is with baristas is the fat, but that mainly is for flavor. When it comes to steaming and creating that voluptuous microfoam, we're actually really concerned with the protein.
Yeah, and the proteins in the milk are what help us to create and maintain the structure for the texture of the milk that we're looking for, which is called microfoam. So when milk is cold, straight out of the refrigerator, those proteins are these tightly coiled up balls. And as the milk heats, those proteins start to stretch out and become a little bit straighter. And that creates this grid-like structure for the air that we're gonna be adding to the milk to be stabilized and to be held. And that's what creates that really, really delicious mouthfeel, that silky texture that we like in all of our milk drinks.
Yeah, not to get too deep into the science, but one side of that protein molecule as it stretches out, like Peter was saying, one side of it is hydrophobic, which means it repels water. The other side of that protein molecule is hydrophilic, which means it pulls water into itself. And the bit that is hydrophobic will wrap around the air bubbles that we introduce. And the bit that is hydrophilic will then pull the water in around it. So you get these air bubbles throughout the milk that are protected and can stand up to sitting in a drink for a while. Another important thing to keep in mind is what happens to the sugars when we steam milk. I think this is something that we don't think about often. I know when I first learned this, it kind of blew my mind a little bit. The sugar in milk is lactose, and lactose is what we call a disaccharide, which means it's two molecules of sugar that are joined together. And those two molecules are glucose, which is just very simple sugar, and galactose, which is another form of very simple sugar. Sugar as a carbohydrate has to be broken down by your body in order for you to taste it. And so the more complex the carbohydrate, the longer it takes your body to break it down and perceive it as tasting sweet. So if you drink milk straight out of the fridge, you put milk in your cereal, whatever, it is a little sweet, right? It tastes a little bit sweet. But if you've ever tasted steamed milk, it's much sweeter tasting. Now, we haven't actually added any more sugar to it, but what has happened is once that milk has risen in temperature above about 110 degrees, lactose will split apart into those two constituent sugar molecules, and then we'll start to taste sweeter to your palate without actually adding any additional sugar.
When it comes to the actual mechanics of steaming milk, we try to really break it down into two distinct phases. It keeps it very simple for us as baristas to fully understand the process of milk steaming. The first phase of the milk steaming process is the introduction of air. And at that point, which that phase we usually say will go from around 40 degrees, talking milk temperatures here, 40 degrees to about 100 degrees. So that's the period of time in which you're going to be incorporating air into the liquid milk. And the way that we do that is through the positioning of our steam wand in the pitcher. And it's not just the location of the steam wand in the pitcher, but it's the depth of the steam wand in the pitcher. So we're gonna be starting with our steam tip just below the surface of the liquid milk. And I don't know if it's helpful on video, but do you have a pen?
Nope.
Pen? Cool. So if this pen is our steam wand, and obviously this is our steaming pitcher, we're gonna use the spout of our steaming pitcher as an anchor. So I like to always have the steam wand in contact with the spout of our pitcher. So that keeps things nice and stable for you. So we're gonna place our steam wand here, and we're gonna position that halfway between the handle and the spout of the pitcher, and then a quarter to the side. And the way we can achieve that slightly off-center angle is by giving the pitcher a very gentle tilt to the side like that. And then we're gonna start with the steam wand, the steam tip, just below the surface of the milk. And we're gonna turn our steam wand on full power. And once you start to hear that classic paper tearing sound, that paper ripping sound, that's the sound of air being entrained into our milk. That's how you know that you're incorporating air. So we're going to stay in that first phase, the introduction of air, from roughly 40 degrees, we're talking milk temperatures here, from roughly 40 degrees to 100 degrees. And then at that point, we're gonna switch to the second phase. The way that we know that we've reached 100 degrees without actually having a thermometer in our pitcher while we steam is because while we're holding the pitcher with one hand, our free hand is gonna go directly to the side of our pitcher, and we're gonna be feeling the temperature of our milk rise throughout the whole process.
Yeah, I think it's important to note too that you don't want to leave your hand on the pitcher. You want to kind of like move it on and off, because if you leave your hand there, you're going to get used to how warm it feels, and you're going to underestimate how hot it is. Another great way to know when you're ready to move on to the next phase of steaming is if your milk volume has increased about 33%. So about a third larger, you know you've introduced enough air into the mixture.
Yeah, really great tips. So once you've reached that 100-degree mark and your milk has grown by about 30% in volume, you can switch to the second phase of milk steaming. We refer to that phase as the development phase or texturizing phase. And the only thing that you're gonna change to go from the first phase to the second phase is the depth of the steam wand or the steam tip in your milk.
This is why it's great that Peter is showing you how to steam milk with the steam wand into the spout, because it's really easy to adjust the depth of your steam wand and not have to worry about anything else like positioning or whether you're losing contact with it at all.
Yeah, the steam wand position stays exactly the same because we want this really nice vortex whirlpool-like motion of the milk inside of the pitcher, and that really encourages uniform microfoam throughout all of the milk. So we're gonna switch from our first phase to our second phase just by slightly raising our steam pitcher so that the steam tip is fully submerged into the milk, and we're no longer hearing that aeration happen. Again, that kind of sounds like paper tearing or paper ripping. And then we're gonna hold it in that same exact position with the steam tip fully submerged until we've reached our target temperature, which for most milks is gonna be roughly 145 degrees Fahrenheit to 155 degrees Fahrenheit.
Let's steam some milk.
Let's do it. Cold, chill milk right out of the refrigerator. Very important, obviously, that stays in the fridge, but we also want to keep our steaming pitchers in the refrigerator when we're not using them so that our milk doesn't begin to rise in temperature before we start steaming. Also very important for the health of our machines and just overall hygiene to purge our steam wand before we steam our milk. Pull my steam wand all the way out against the machine. I'm gonna position that using the spout as a guide, halfway between the spout and the handle and a quarter to the side, and I'm achieving that by slightly tilting the pitcher. And I have the steam tip just below the surface of the milk. I'm gonna turn this on. You have the nice vortex whirlpool motion. We're aerating, and now we're in the second phase. We're texturizing. Position didn't change, only the depth, and I'm at the correct temperature. Take our pitcher away. Before we do anything else, we're gonna wipe our steam wand to clean any of that dry, crusty milk off. And we're gonna purge that a second time after. And what you should end up with is really shiny, glossy looking milk. No visible bubbles on the surface, but as you swirl that around in the pitcher, you can see that the way the milk holds onto the inside walls of the pitcher, that's a really good sign. That means we have really, really nice microfoam developed. If you do have any large bubbles, you can give it a gentle tap on the counter to get rid of those. And this is really great milk. We're gonna pour some really nice latte art with that.
Embarrassing.
No. And there's your cappuccino.
We spend a lot of time talking about espresso, and we're a coffee company. That's what we want to serve well, but the vast majority of our drinks are made of milk. And so we don't want to sleep on that. We want to make sure that we're serving delicious textured milk as well.
Yeah, and it's a skill that will take time to perfect. So just keep at it, practice, practice, practice. Before you know it, you'll have really beautiful, shiny, glossy, delicious milk for all your drinks. Consistency will come with practice.
That's
Cut that